Aloha, bonjour, and welcome to Vee Notes. This is the pod story that goes beyond the speeches to talk about impact. Today, we're diving into a day that sparks global conversations but needs a sharper focus. I'm talking about International Women's Day. Every year, March 8th arrives with slogans, banners, and social media tributes celebrating women's achievements. But beyond the hashtags and symbolic flowers, what does this day really mean, especially for African, Caribbean, and global women? Well, let's be clear, this is not just a day of celebration, it's a day of reckoning. It's a checkpoint in my belief, a reminder to assess progress and also challenge inequalities, balance expectations, and most importantly, drive real change. Because the truth is, women do not need more acknowledgement, they need access. They do not need more words, they need wealth. And they don't need to keep proving their worth. They actually need the barriers removed once and for all. Yes. So I'm trying in this podcast to understand the nuance, and the nuance will be African women in the global context. For African women, International Women's Day carries a unique weight. It's not just about representation in corporate boardrooms, it's about economic autonomy, access to funding, and ownership of business, land, and decision making power. While women worldwide face systemic barriers, African women face triple jeopardy. I think this is true also for Caribbean women. Gender bias, yet they receive less than 2% of global venture capital. They lead households, yet only own 13% of agricultural land. They power informal economies, yet remain financially underserved. So today, let's move beyond symbolic recognition and ask, how do we break the real barriers that block women from success? I think breaking down these barriers, I'll just focus on three of them because there are many, right? But breaking three barriers that are very dear to my heart, thus will maybe inspire you to join me in this momentum to actually accelerate action for women across the board. The first barrier I'd love to speak of will be access to capital, from microloans to multi-million deals. Women do not just need microloans to get by, they need real investment, equity, venture capital, and banking systems that do not label them as high risk just because they are women. What is my proposed solution? I believe pushing for gender lens investing, demanding banks to rethink risk models, and building women led investments funds will actually help them finance big ideas, not just small survivalist businesses. The second barrier for me would be gatekeeping in business networks and leadership spaces. And this is the very reason that led me to creating the Tropics Women Alliance, because I see that there's too many opportunities that keep happening in exclusive circles where women remain underrepresented, from high value government contracts to global trade deals. The most powerful rooms are still largely male dominated. What could be the solution? Well, in my opinion, women must build parallel power structures, own their own networks, create their own investment summits, and ensure that access is no longer a privilege but a right. I would love to speak finally about the third barrier that I've actually noted down, the burden of unpaid labor and cultural conditioning. I think this is very big in the context of Africa and the Caribbean. Women continue to carry the weight of unpaid care work, making it harder and harder for them to scale businesses and step into leadership positions. So, my proposed solution would be humbly to normalize paid domestic support, demand corporate policies that recognize caregiving, and reframe cultural narratives that glorify women's sacrifice instead of their success. So, what's next? Do I think you may ask? March 8th is not the finish line, it is a checkpoint. That is my personal opinion, and I believe strongly that the world needs to stop clapping for women's resilience and start funding their power. Women need to own not just businesses but industries. They need to shift from being included, so setting the rules of inclusion is paramount. And to my sisters listening, you do not need permission to build, to lead, to innovate, to take up space. The world moves when women move. The world moves when we move. So let us move it forward together. This was the Vee Notes of the day. Until next time, let's continue to build, to own, and to never settle.